it's really important that we remind ourselves on a regular basis who we are, because we need to be the leaders of what we do. And if we don't own what we do, nobody else around us will own what we do. There's no way that you can promote chiropractic if you don't own what you do. And I want to challenge everybody this morning by talking about just some, what I'm going to frame as brutally honest truths that are going to help you to try to reflect on your procedures and what you do on a day-to-day basis, perhaps why you're stuck or plateaued or not growing as fast as you'd like to grow, or just not getting the things done that you know you need to get done. So I think this will be hopefully a very eye-opening call for everybody. And I want to just start by this, is that we all have to remind ourselves who we are on a regular basis. And it's really important to look inside and look at what we stand for as chiropractors. And no matter where you are on your journey of this profession, I think this is really an important exercise. And I'll tell you this little story. So I was out the other day. So I'm in Fort Myers, Florida right now. I'm visiting Austin and Sierra and Adeline. Adeline had her first birthday on Monday. So we celebrated her first birthday. So it's a very happy time. And so I had a little bit of time to kill. So I was out at a store the other day. It's a vehicle store. And I'm walking around just kind of kicking tires, looking at vehicles. And it actually happened to be motorcycles. And I mean, I've had motorcycles most of my life. Not that I want to get another motorcycle, but I'm just out there looking and I had some time to kill. So I'm walking around and there's some motorcycles out on the lawn. And I'm walking along the lawn and there's a sales guy that comes out to approach me. We start talking. And as we're talking, super nice guy. And as we're talking, I feel this stinging feeling on my foot. I look down and my foot is covered with these fire ants. They're called fire ants down here. And I'm getting eaten alive by these fire ants. I got sandals on. It's 84 degrees here in Fort Myers, Fahrenheit. So, so I'm like, he's talking to me and I'm trying to be inconspicuous, but I'm kicking my sandal off and I'm trying to wipe these fire ants off my foot. Finally, I had to say, excuse me just a second. I had to actually get my hand and get down there and go between my toes and wipe these fire ants off my foot. Well, the next day I noticed I got a whole bunch of bites on my foot and my foot's really itchy. Well, here we are. This is now 3 days later, 2 or 3 days later. My foot, I look like I have elephantiasis. Like my foot is all swollen up. I'm like, what the heck is going on? And my first reaction is to, oh my God, like I'm poisoned. I got this ant venom in my foot. It's all swollen up. It's starting to go toward my ankle. And I got these sores that are starting to weep on my foot as a result of this. Holy crap, I think I might need some medication. And then I had to give myself my head a shake and go, what am I thinking? Like, where is my head at? So, and I had to remind myself that I don't think that way. I have a philosophy, this inside out philosophy, and I need to remove the interference. So I actually asked Austin, would you adjust me? And he adjusted me yesterday, upper cervical adjustment, just to make sure my body is functioning the way that it should be. And I mean, I still have a lot of itching and discomfort in my foot, but the swelling is starting to go down, starting to get under control. But it's really important that we remind ourselves on a regular basis who we are, because we need to be the leaders of what we do. And if we don't own what we do, nobody else around us will own what we do. There's no way that you can promote chiropractic if you don't own what you do. So that was kind of just a reminder for me this week about remember who you are. And again, these are brutally honest truths. And I really want to challenge you guys this morning. I'd like to have some discussion. We all want to grow, we all want to have success, but not many of us are willing to put in the pain that it takes to gain the success that we want. And here's the thing. So the first step here is pain is the price of progress. Pain is the price of progress. So it's like, you want to go get fit, you want to build some muscle, you want to go to the gym, you want to get in shape. You have to push yourself to a point where your body responds to that stress and you're going to be sore. So if you're at a point in your life and your practice where things are just not the way they should be, you have to push into things that are going to cause pain. And I'll give you a perfect example. And actually I had this conversation with one of our clients, and I won't mention who it was, but talking about an associate and talking about how that associate was not really pulling their weight, not really getting the results that they were that the main doc expected them to get. I'm trying to be very intentional with my wording here. So, I said, I remember when one of our associates, and this was Dr. Ali Ibsalar, great guy, he was with us for 4 years, and he did need a lot of training. He came from a school that didn't teach philosophy. He really had no experience in chiropractic. He'd never had his own practice. So I said to him, I said, we're going to train like I'm helping you to grow and build your own practice. I want you to have all the knowledge and all the skill to go and build your own practice. That was the goal. And like now he does, which is awesome. So, but here's what it was, is that our schedules were so busy through the day, we could have very easily used an excuse. And here's the thing, excuse, this is a great line. An excuse is a permission slip for mediocrity. That's what an excuse is. Excuse is a permission slip for mediocrity. We could have used excuses to say we don't have time to train. But I said, okay, the only time that we have to train is in the morning. Now, we started with patients at 7 a.m. We did our huddle at 6:45, and they were written in stone. Like, we were not changing that. So I said, okay, Ali, I said, we're going to meet at 5 a.m. We're going to meet at 5. We're going to work out together. Okay, we're going to have a workout 5 till 6, and then 6 till 6:45, we're going to train. And I said, I'm not going to be late. And I said, I don't expect you to be late. I said, what is the incentive for us to not be late, to make sure that we write this in stone? And he said, well, I don't know. I said, okay, I'll tell you what, if I'm late, I'm going to be here at the office at 5 a.m., which meant I had to get up at 4:15, throw my gym equipment on, get in the car. It was about a 10-15 minute drive to the office. I had to make sure I'm leaving the house by 4:30, 4:40 at the very latest, so I could be in the office by 5 a.m. And I just said, okay, I'm committing to that. And I said, I want you to commit to that too. I said, if I'm late, if I show up at 5:01, I'm going to pay you $1,000. That was our deal. So it was an incentive to me to say, I am not being late. And I said, if you're late, you're going to do the same for me. We agreed. So we just said, okay, let's just make it happen. So we did. And we did it once a week. And every single week we met, we worked out, and we trained. And we did this for probably the better part of 2 years, nonstop. But the thing is, what it did is it gave him the skills to grow. We just committed to it. So what we did is we did our workout. We'd have a real quick shower. And then let me clarify, not together. We had separate showers in the office. Okay. We both had showers separately, and then we trained. Okay. And we would go over procedures. We'd go over day one. We'd go over philosophy. We'd read green books together. We'd talk about day two. We talk about doctor's report. We talk about closing, all the things that we needed to do to become better chiropractors. It was probably more beneficial to me to do that than it was for him. So, but it helped him to grow into a chiropractor. And this is at a time where we're seeing well over 1,000 people a week on a regular basis. And it finally gave him the confidence, the certainty, and the skill that after 4 years in our office, we mutually decided that he was going to go and open up his own office in Toronto. And I helped him and supported him in that venture. But this is the thing. So I'm going to ask you guys and challenge you guys now, and I'd love to hear from you, is that what are you not doing because it's too, quote unquote, painful? It's too painful. Let me hear it.
As people are thinking of things that they're kind of holding off on, like this is the same piece why, what Colin said, like the pain, or it's the, maybe rephrase that, the work that has to happen. It's the same reason you get a hot button from your patients. Like if you want to get better in anything, there's going to be work involved. If there's a reason why, then the work becomes a lot easier. But you got to figure out that reason why for you. Like there's a reason why Colin would do that. I think Justine gets up at that time regularly. But there's these pieces, like what are you going for? What does your life need to amount to? What are the things you're trying to change for the people around you, your family, or bigger picture? And then the actions become a lot easier.
Appreciate that.
You asked for it, man.
So here, but
I could have just kept quiet.
But this is good. This is exactly what we want, because here's the thing. And so I'm going to just share something with you. So I'm reading and actually listening to a lot of John Maxwell lately. And so John Maxwell, because I think we can all relate to what you're going through on some level, right? Life is never perfect. There's always challenges. There's always obstacles. And John Maxwell said there's two things to think about. He said there's success, and success is something you get for yourself. And he said if you're focused on success, he said there's always obstacles, because you're never happy. You're never happy with the amount of success. You're never happy with the amount of money. You're never happy with the amount of free time you have. You're never happy with how your relationships are going. You're never happy with all that, because there's always something more that you could possibly have as far as success, because it's inward, it's the influx. Whereas significance, he said, significance is different because that's what you focus on doing for other people. And if you can focus more on your significance, in other words, what you are bringing to the table. So in your case, what you're bringing to the table now, I mean, you have an incredible opportunity now to go serve people however you want. I mean, you know yourself, after 38 years, you've had a very high level practice, great business, you've made some wonderful investments. You don't have to work for money. So isn't that a beautiful place to be? Because now you can choose what you want do and who you want to serve. And he said, this is what John Maxwell said, that's where true fulfillment comes from. You never gain fulfillment by trying to gain success. You gain fulfillment by your level of significance, which is an outward flow towards other people. So here's something else is that, and I'm going to use this one because this is actually one of my next points here. There's something called selective productivity. And selective productivity means basically to put your focus on things that are important for you. So if you've got all this chaos going on in your life that's creating all these obstacles and all this stress, then your ability to say no needs to improve. So really, your selective productivity comes from your ability to say no to all the things that don't matter. And your focus is the thing that you need to say yes to, which is the highest priority. So once we stop giving attention to all the things and people that pull us off of our mission to create significance in the world, then all of a sudden our lives can change when we can start to do that. So I hope that that's helpful for you. And listen, I've known you for a long time, and I know your heart, and I know that you've had lots of obstacles and lots of challenges, but I think, maybe it's a point for you now to be able to get to the point where you can say, I'm okay. Like everything, you've achieved success. Now you need to really start focusing on significance. Who can you serve the most, and who can benefit from you serving them? So anyway, I hope that that's helpful. Anybody else want to chime in there?
Yeah, so I've been leaning into the so-called pain points for a while now. Like I've been getting up at 4 a.m. I usually head into the office right away because I'm very productive at that time. I prepare for the day, look at X-rays and all that fun stuff. And then lately I've been working on training our team at a higher level and putting all our systems together. And but what I've been finding is that I need to focus more on leadership as well too. So I've been adding in some John Maxwell as well too. So I'm reading 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. I read that many years ago, yeah, it's a great book. So yeah, it's definitely a lot of work, but I do that because I want to make sure I'm home as well too. Otherwise, like 4 a.m. the kids are typically not awake. Sometimes they are, but yeah, I'm just doing that to make sure I also don't lose that family time, right? Because that's something I don't want to sacrifice 100%. So
here's the next point. So fear versus regret. A lot of times we just don't do things because we have this fear, and what happens is that we kind of get stuck. We end up in a life of chaos because we have this fear, and we need to get ourselves to the point that if we don't do the thing that we're avoiding doing because of the fear, we're going to end up with this regret down the road. And the thing is, your strength in decision making is to the point where recognizing the things you need to change or the things you need to do or not do, and the action you take to actually making that happen, when the time frame can compress to a very small amount of time, that shows your decision making power. And your decision making power is really important to grow. It's like a skill that when you can finally make a decision and make that decision come true, that's a sign of strength. And here's a really interesting point. When you talk about fear and regret, fear is short-term pain, okay? But regret is long-term pain. That's something that doesn't go away. And often when we get to a state of regret, it's something that we can't control. We look at ourselves, we should have done something differently, or we avoided doing something we should have done, and we have now this regret. That's long-term pain. Comfort, many of us are in our comfort zone, That's short-term gain. It's a short-term feel-good situation. We can stay in our comfort zone because it's short-term gain. But when you want true fulfillment, that's long-term gain. That's the big difference. So the thing is, we have to stop trading comfort for regret. So in other words, we need to start trading the short-term pain, the fear, for the long-term gain of fulfillment. So if you really want to get fulfilled in your life and feel like you're creating significance and serving people on a big level, we have to make the decisions that might cause us short-term pain to get to that point. And you guys have to determine what is holding you back as far as your short-term pain or the decisions that you need to make that you're not making because of this step you need to take. It's a really big one.
And some of this might go back to some of the stuff that Colin and I have talked over the last couple of calls, being like the choke points we talked about, the growth piece we talked about in the call before that. There might be certain things, maybe you walked out of that call and you're like, hey, I'm going to do this. Hey, I got to look into that. And you haven't done it for some reason. If you made a note, like I was even talking to Colin the other day, I'm like those 2 calls we did, like I took pieces from those, that even preparing for the call for you guys we did on growth, I'm like, things I can refine on, things I can improve trainings on, stuff like that. Colin's choke point things, again, a few areas that we should take a look at that. But if you took notes, you put them down, you're like, oh yeah, and you came, kind of inspired from the call and then did nothing with it. What's the piece that's holding you back?
So I did a talk the other night for the York Peel Chiropractic Society, and they're a very active group. So this is a Toronto-based group of chiropractors, and they attract chiropractors of many different practice styles. So it's not necessarily a subluxation-based group. It's just a group of chiropractors that are all meet together on a regular basis. So I give them tremendous credit. So I got asked to do a talk for them, and I had a 90-minute time slot, and I talked about business principles for growth-minded chiropractors. And the thing that I really talked about the most was to get to a point where you stop fearing rejection. And this is one thing that we as chiropractors, I think, have a lot of fear with, is our fear of rejection. And I'm going to just expand on this a little bit, as I did the other night. When you think about it, we are a minority in the healthcare world. People really generally don't understand what we do. And what happens is that creates some level of confrontation when people come to see us. They come with the desire to get something from us when they show up in our office. If they really don't understand what we do, they want quick pain relief. They want something that doesn't cost anything, because if you look at everywhere else in the healthcare world, especially here in Canada, they don't pay for it out of their pocket. They don't pay for health care or sickness care, if you will, when they go to their medical doctor, or they go to other practitioners, even like physio or massage or whatever else. The insurance covers it. Well, many insurance companies don't cover chiropractic, so they have to pay out of their pocket. So that creates a confrontation. And if we get to the point where we stand our ground and say, this is what we have to offer, if you have a care plan that costs somebody $3,000 and that person says, well, does my insurance cover that care plan? And you have to say, well, no, it doesn't. You have to pay out of your pocket. Some of us cave, and I said this on the call, some of us cave and give into that and wonder why our practices aren't growing, or wonder why people don't stay around for lifetime wellness care, because they just haven't got to the point where they value it. And I said, I'm going to challenge everybody on the line here, is that your fear of rejection is causing you to do things that are outside of your core values that are leading to long-term regret. So if you want to really build a long lifetime wellness care practice, one of the best ways to do that is obviously have people under regular chiropractic care that they come in symptom free. Beautiful. What a great thing. But there's a lot of steps in education for the patient to get to that point. Well, if we all want that, then what are we doing to build that? Do we train on a regular basis? Well, that means there has to be commitment with our team, with ourselves, to actually book that training, go through the trainings, role play in the trainings, manage the objections, so that we can become better skilled communicators in our office to help people to change their paradigm and change their thinking. What do we have to do? Well, if they go through their day 1, day 2, or day 1, day 2, day 3, depending on what level of conversion that you're doing, are we willing to accept people if we present them a care plan for $3,000, 30 visits for $3,000, or whatever your care plan is? Maybe it's a year-long care plan, whatever you do. But then you start accepting people outside of that care plan that the person says, oh, I just want to pay as I go, or, and you allow them to do that, you're compromising your core values. So that short-term gain is really causing long-term pain. And then we wonder, why are we not growing? Why is my associate not growing? Why is my practice not as busy as, why am I not collecting as much money as I should be? So why are my expenses going up? One of our clients contacted me the other day and said, I don't know what's going on, but my conversions are down. My retention is down lately. I was going really strong. And it's just not happening. So can I set up a call? And so we're in the process of setting up a call. But those are the questions that I'm going to have. So it all comes back to really what you're trying to build and being very consistent and regimented with the core values that you want to try to relay to people. So rejection versus regret. The fear of rejection is causing a lot more regret in the long term. Okay, next one. Consistency beats talent. Consistency beats talent. You know, I was never the most talented guy at anything, and I'm going to say whether it was in chiropractic or whether it was public speaking or whether it was, but one thing that I have, and Kim and I talk about this all the time, whenever I played sports, playing hockey or playing golf or whatever it was, I recognize in myself that I just do not have an off button. Like when I commit myself to doing something, I'll just go. And I'll just go like full out as hard as I can. And that's maybe that's a detriment in certain ways, but I think that's what's helped me to gain a lot of success in things that I've done or significance in things that I've done because I just don't quit. And I think that is one thing that I've learned is that when you're consistent with something, no matter how many times you fail at it, no matter what's not working, as long as you don't quit, you're going to win. Like it's just a matter of time. So consistency beats talent. So as long as you stick with it, you'll eventually get the reward. Like you'll eventually get to the place you want to go. And then you create a new level. And this is something too that your body and your mind and your spirit will start to habituate to your circumstances. And a perfect example is that if you went into let's say a cold plunge, right? The first few seconds of a cold plunge are very painful, but your body starts to habituate to that. And eventually, as your body starts to habituate and you adapt, then that cold plunge gets actually relatively comfortable, and many people can stay in for a long time. And so it's the same thing in your life is that you throw yourself into an awkward situation or a challenging situation. You just work through it. And the more you can work through it, the more success you'll have on the other end.
I will say that definitely leaning into the pain has, like, not the pain, but I don't really see it as pain, to be honest. But just leaning into that getting up early and focusing on that kind of stuff definitely produces results. Like we've been getting more referrals than I ever have. Both offices are growing. We're seeing more complex patients as well too. At my clinic coming in for outside of back pain, like people bringing in their kids with brain tumors on their brain stems, causing blood pressure fluctuations to 200 over 150, these kinds of things, dysautonomia, seizures, autism, sensory processing problems, ADHD in kids and adults. Like it's just crazy. Like I haven't even had a back pain patient in forever, it seems like. So yeah, it definitely is worth it.
Well, and that's the thing, like talk about like leaning into the discomfort. Like I don't think anyone feels good when they wake up early, but 20 minutes after they do, right? Like, not a lot of people are feeling like working out when they start the workout, but after they're done, they're really glad they did. Eating well, whatever it is, like you don't feel good going into it, but as you get into it, you're really happy you did. It's just being willing to make that first step and knowing it's going to be uncomfortable and being aware it's going to be uncomfortable, but you're going to feel good when you're on the end of it.
Steve, that's amazing, actually, what you just talked about. And I can tell you, I can relate to that exactly. When my sister was going through her cancer, for 2 years, she struggled with the cancer and she did everything in the medical model against, myself and Kim's recommendation. She just bought right into the medical model and ended up having radiation and chemo and surgery. And eventually it took her life. And she didn't die from the cancer. She died from all of the intervention. And through that time, I remember her just basically giving up and saying, I can eat whatever I want. However, that fueled me to talk about it. And what happened is, as a result of that, what happens is you start attracting that into your life. And we had so many people that had been diagnosed in different stages of cancer come in because of that. And they wanted care. They wanted help with their nutrition. They wanted help with their spinal, spinal function. And we got them under chiropractic care. We gave them nutritional programs and exercise programs. We had an exercise class in our office. And I mean, you guys have seen my testimonial video. We had so many people that came in because of different stages of cancer that went into remission and gave chiropractic full credit for that, which was absolutely beautiful. So that's, you can tell, I mean, that's what you're attracting into your life right now, which is huge. So, and here's the big thing. So that's a huge lesson for all of you, is that you, you attract what you sow. So if you're getting a lot of people that, first of all, don't want to pay, if you're getting a lot of people that are not committed to their chiropractic care, if you're getting a lot of people that just want to come in for a quick fix or just quick pain relief, you're attracting that. So change what you're doing and how you're presenting it to people, and all of a sudden, the universe, God changes. The doors open up for you. Here's one big thing, is that life-changing doors do not open themselves. It's a great quote. Life-changing doors do not open themselves. So the big picture is have no shame. Shame is something that you get when you feel that you're not living up to somebody else's expectations. And that's when we live in the life of should, right? And Kim's got a great line. She says, "I need to stop shoulding all over myself." But that's something to really start to think about, is that we need to stop shoulding all over ourselves. So life-changing doors do not open themselves. So have no shame. So shame is something that comes from your inability to live up to somebody else's expectation in your own mind. Whereas guilt is something that comes from inside. Guilt is something that you should be doing better, and thus you have an element of guilt. So guilt is 100% completely controllable. So we need to stop living in this life of shame. Guilt we can control by just making the changes. Life-changing doors do not open themselves. If you're caught in a dense fog, think about this. If you're lost somewhere and you're in a dense fog, you can't see anything because there's no vision, right? You have no vision. And here's the thing, is that if you don't have vision, the best thing you can do is just pick a direction and start walking. If you're in a dense fog, you just need to pick a direction to start walking and start moving. And eventually things start to come into focus. Eventually you start to refine your direction as you start to encounter different challenges or different doors opening in your life. And then you start to refine your direction, but you just need to start walking.
Well, I've done studies on this too. Like in business, if you just make a decision, your speed of making decisions increases your results, increases your success. Even if you make the wrong decision, but you made a decision, you took an action, you started moving in a direction, you still have more success and better outcomes if you just make the decision. A lot of us sit and we're trying to figure out if it's the right one, or just sit there and pause. Just got to make a decision and go.
Next one is ignore the critics. Okay. Too many of us stifle our own progression because we have too many critics or too many people trying to bring us down. And here's a big thing. Realize that most people around you, including most chiropractors, live an average life. They're lazy, they're poor, they're below average, and maybe I'm mass generalizing, but let's just assume that to be true. And everybody that lives in that world wants to bring you down to their level. They don't want you to succeed. So that's and I hate to say this, but that's what happens with chiropractors, is that they get jobs on boards. They can't make it in practice, so they get jobs on boards. And that's why so many boards are filled with chiropractors who want to either add medication prescription to their repertoire, or they want to pull down people who are making a big impact in the profession. And that's what happens. So start ignoring the critics. Don't let average people keep you average. That's a big thing. And another one here is that, and this is a huge one, and I want you guys to really think about this. You're avoiding hard conversations with people in your life. Okay. So it could be a personal relationship, could be one of your children, it could be one of your team members. And it's time that you had the hard conversation with them, because hard conversations create opportunities. And if you keep avoiding those hard conversations, you never experience those opportunities that come into your life. You just keep treading water and wonder why things are not changing by themselves. So you know you have team members that are not pulling their weight on some level. Maybe you have personal relationships that are pulling you in a different direction, whatever that might be. It's time to get your thoughts together and have a hard conversation, and do it productively. Do it with intention of having the hard conversation with some element of outcome, whether it's a decision to end that relationship or not hang out with that person, not spend time with that person, or maybe it's we have to collectively have an agreement here where we go together in a different direction, whatever that might be. So stop avoiding those hard conversations. I want to leave it just a few things today. We're trying to make this call, the mastermind call, is very interactive, which means we share and pour into each other. And I hope that you guys can bring an element of yourself and your energy into your world, right? And one thing I can't tell you enough is that you have so many gifts to bring to your patients. You have so many gifts that you can share with your team, with your family, but all of you are holding back on some level. And it's time to recognize that. And it's time to start playing full out. There's a general attrition of the amount of collections that many offices are having. There's a general attrition of the number of people that most offices are serving. And that's not okay. That to me just shows me that there's a lack of vision. There's a lack of commitment. There's a lack of urgency to get our principle to more people. I shared on the call the other night a couple of my big whys, and one of which was my mom dying in my arms when I was doing CPR. And because she lived in a world of medical philosophy, and she was not willing to change that. And I wish somebody would have scared the crap out of her so that she could have changed her paradigm and started living a more five essential oriented, a chiropractic paradigm lifestyle. But she never did. And that cost her life. Not only cost her life, it cost me the mental anguish of trying to save her in that time. She died way too young. So I'm going to ask you guys, is that what are you holding back for? Like, what are you filtering? Why are you not playing full out? Like, what is stopping you from taking your life and your ability to serve people to the next level? Stop being selfish, because that's just an attitude of selfishness. So, and here I'm going to just share with you, like, I'm in this world now where sold the practice. We made incredibly great money. We have a wonderful net worth. We're looking at buying property down here in Florida. I could easily retire, play my guitar a couple hours a day, drive a motorcycle around, go to the beach, make little straw hats if I wanted to. But I have this purpose that people need to understand the chiropractic principle. That's what it all comes down to. We have this beautiful chiropractic principle, and wherever that comes from, I'm not going to let up on that. So, however I can serve the profession, serve the members of the profession, and serve the general public by helping them understand that principle, I'm gonna do it. And I'm not saying that because I want anything, like, that doesn't make me better than anybody. That's just a mission that I have. But I'm asking you guys to ask yourself, what is your mission? How do you want to serve people? And that's where you gain true fulfillment. It doesn't come any other way. It doesn't, like, you can't accumulate enough stuff in your life to give you fulfillment. The only time you have fulfillment is when you know that you can serve somebody and transform their life in some way. And we have this beautiful vehicle to transform lives with chiropractic. So start using it. Like, start sharing the principle with people on a higher level. And if your practice is not where you want to be, you're not serving and sharing that principle enough. That's where it all comes down to. So figure out ways on how you can serve and share that principle on a higher level. And guess what happens? Everything in your life just starts to fall into place. That's what it is.